Okay, I want to briefly introduce you to a tool that we will be using in this class to determine your individual grade once we have a group grade for the major output. So one of the main goals in this class is that you'll improve your ability to work together with a really diverse set of team members, that you'll apply your own expertise, your own personal experiences in concert with the expertise and experiences of those other fellows, those other members of the team. And that together you are going to be more than the sum of your parts, and that you will create this really dynamic, cohesive output at the end. Now, to get there, you're going to have to communicate effectively. You're going to have to share your ideas. You're going to have to inspire one another, and occasionally, let a team member know if they're not really contributing as much as they could. That skill set is incredibly important, and it's going to be incredibly important for the rest of your career. Now, undoubtedly, you will have been in group projects in the past where perhaps you had to pull your weight, whether there was some free riding, whether there was some degree of unfairness, and to a large extent, this unfortunately reflects the reality of professional life. These sorts of teams are going to exist, but since our goal here is really to provide an opportunity, an environment where you can build trust in your peers and you can invest the time into putting the work in so that you know that the output, your individual grade, is going to reflect not only the quality of the output, but the proportion of the work that you did, we're going to use this tool. And this tool is called Impact. Interactive Member Performance Assessment and Comparison Tool. And in this tool, we'll automatically, once we have assigned you to a group, we'll automatically generate this interface for you to evaluate yourself. So here's me, Joel Moore, and each of your team members that have been put together on the same team. And you'll evaluate one another based on some key criteria that the wider literature on teamwork has identified as important. These are teamwork, contributing, skills, keeping the team on track, and quality. So for each member of the team, including yourself, you'll evaluate how that member over that particular period performed. So as you click on the number of stars, it will give you an indication of what sorts of behavioral indicators you would have seen in that period. And so you make your best judgment based on the category and that person's behavior over that period, how well they did. And so for each of these categories, reading through the observable indicators gives you a clear idea of what we're talking about. So we'll say here that that Bill Smith actually did a really good job. That Signy Chu did sort of a middling job. Maybe got a little distracted, and the quality of the actual work wasn't great, but a real good upbeat team member. And we'll say that Joel Moore here is really not pulling his weight very much. And the overall quality and contribution hasn't been great. And we'll just put middling here for Bill. So numerically behind the scenes, the tool is going to determine the individual contribution of each member numerically, mathematically, and use that rating to determine what their share of the group grade should be. And so in addition to that quantitative piece, it's also really good practice to give critical comments that inspire. So on the one hand, you don't want to be overly, particularly in the early period, overly generous with praise. That if you just say, "Oh, you're doing great," even if they're not, that sends a really bad signal, and can give them the expectation that they can continue with the sort of behavior that they are. So Joel Moore, in this case, might see if we gave him all high scores or even middling scores when his performance wasn't great, he may say, "Oh, I don't have to work that much harder. Everyone thinks I'm doing pretty well." So both with the quantitative and the qualitative scores, you want to be honest and critical and specific. But at the same time, you have to be conscious of, how to motivate, how to inspire. If you just tell them that they're doing a bad job, that can be really demotivating and really invite argumentation. You'll spend the whole time dealing with the interpersonal conflict element of this. And so this is a skill, giving and receiving feedback is a really important skill. And so it should be something you look into. So there are a number of resources on Harvard Business Review, on other academic sources where clear guidance is given on how you can give feedback effectively, how you can inspire with the words that you choose. So think carefully about what you say. And again, the goal is to have the team do the best possible job. It's not to be right. It's not to be smarter than anyone else. It's to lift everyone on the team and get the best possible product or output or report or whatever it is we're working on. So for the text here, we're going to want to be really thoughtful in how we frame and phrase this. Now, all of that qualitative text will be filtered. It'll be sent to us, the teaching team, to review. Just make sure there's nothing objectionable before we send it off to the individual members of the team. Once you're ready, you click submit, and that goes through. And after it's submitted, you can refresh the page. You only have to submit it once. And you can click on the My Scores tab once you've refreshed it. And it will give you an indication it'll give you the comments that you've received so far. It'll give you a weekly breakdown of the numerical scores you've gotten out of 5. So you can, see where you might want to consider improvement. Now, these are aggregate scores. So these are scores taking an average of all of your team members and your own evaluation of your performance. And then your scores to date. So here, anything under 100 means you're contributing relatively less compared to the average member of your group. If it's over 100, you're contributing relatively more. And it's really, a percentage. So if your group grade in the end ends up being 75%, it's a pretty reasonable group grade. Your individual contribution and the individual mark you'll get for the class will be a 70. So because you're under 100, because you're contributing relatively less than the average group member, you're going to get below the group grade. If you were over 100%, then you would get above the group grade. So numerically behind the scenes, if you add up the percentages, or you take an average of the percentages of each member of the team, the average would be the actual group grade that's given to the project. Okay, so this tool, by setting it out this way, allows your team to really specify at the beginning what they're looking for, have a conversation about expectations, and gives you some prompts to think about how you're performing, how your team members are performing, and to think about how you can inspire your team members, how you can take any critiques you get as a way to improve yourself, and hopefully it will lead to faith that your hard work, even if it turns out that some team members are free riding, aren't really contributing, your hard work will be rewarded above and beyond the group grade that you get. So there's a certain amount of transparency and fairness in using a tool like this. Now, obviously, once you get out into the corporate world or the professional world, you won't always have a tool like this. It'll be much more sort of hit or miss. You're on a good team or a bad team, but all of these skills you're developing, giving feedback, inspiring your team members, are going to be really useful. And so this is a way for us to give you the opportunity to practice and develop those skills, but to do so in a way that is fair and is transparent. So I hope you enjoy the tool. I hope it leads your team to achieve great outcomes. And I really look forward to seeing what you produce.